Greetings. We're back here along the Ferry Springs Trail along the Deschutes River in northern Oregon. If you've been following us, a year ago we were here at this very spot in the aftermath of the Substation Fire in 2018, July. Burned about 80,000 acres and took one life. And if you watch that video, we'll leave the link in the description, you'll see the landscape looked much, much different just 1 year ago here in this very spot. Blackened, decimated, and yet, only a few weeks after the fire, there were still green plants coming up. And of course the ants were popping up right out of the ground. Probably just hid away for a moment until the fire had passed. But all too often, people view fire only as tragedy. And while in the short term it surely can bring tragedy, fire in the long run is good. It's a chance for, as you know, Mother Nature to renew, regrow, replenish, and recover and start anew, get a fresh, clean slate. And anything that's good for Mother Nature is good for humans. And so if you're against fire, you're against other people. You're against our very survival. We need fire in order for the environment to stay stable and all of our ecosystems to continue functioning in a healthy fashion. Suppressing fire is quite unhealthy for the environment, for the landscape. But even so, there are aspects to nature that we certainly don't appreciate either. We dislike the ants quite a lot, as you've noticed. But we recognize that they are a crucial part of the ecosystem, and we cannot exist without those little buggers crawling all over us. And so we don't see ants as a problem, but rather as a very important but annoying function of our ecosystem, a healthy function. It's a sign that things are working the way they're supposed to. And as you can hear, there's crispy leaves underfoot. And everything came back. In fact, we came through here in spring. It's pretty easy to end up here. If you're traveling anywhere in northern Oregon, you go across the I-84 and you end up out here. Passing the Deschutes River, the mouth, where the Columbia Gorge Scenic Area begins on the east end. And so it's easy enough to stop in, maybe camp out, or just take a little day hike up here, up the river ways. There's a trail that goes for miles. We like the little Ferry Springs Trail here. You get up above it all, get that high vista looking out towards the Columbia River. Very nice out there. And so in spring, when we came through here after the fire this year in 2019, it was pretty obvious where the fire had been and hadn't been, because the fire footprint was bright, vivid, vibrant green, teeming with life. And on the other side of the fire break that they had cut, just up on these hillsides here, it was still brown and dry and dead. It hadn't really come back as much. And that's such an obvious indicator that fire is good, fire is healthy, and fire is important. And just like the Eagle Creek fire in the Columbia Gorge, it was hailed as this, or heralded as this horrible tragedy, the worst thing to happen to the gorge, in its entire history. And the problem is, the entire history of the gorge, they've been suppressing fire in there for 70 years plus. That's extremely unhealthy. And the forest was probably just screaming to get a good burn and finally get a healthy system of wildfire and then renewal and regrowth back initiated. And it would be, as much as you'll probably hate us for saying this, Portlanders, they should let other areas burn but close them to people so it's safe. They should do more controlled burns in these places to make sure that these systems stay in place, these natural systems that you and I and everyone else all rely upon and depend upon to keep functioning healthy. If you don't ignore your support systems, especially, for example, if you're on a spaceship, you don't just hope the support system works and never look at it and ignore it and just kind of guess that everything's going to be fine. And they always say we're here on Spaceship Earth. we don't have any other support systems right now, so we have to take absolute perfect care of the one we have, and that is the ecosystem, the environment, nature. We can't mess with it. We can't let it get out of balance. If it gets out of balance, it puts us under threat. So, if you don't really care about humanity's survival, by all means, crap all over the environment and suppress fire. But if you really care about Mother Nature, you really care about the environment, you care about the future of humanity, you're going to have to allow things to burn. You're going to have to let Mother Nature do her thing. And we need to work with her, not against her. And examples like this right here, where the fire was let to burn and it came right back a year later, it looks like nothing had ever happened. If you had never known that there was a fire here, you'd never know. I mean, if we didn't tell you, would you say this looked like a fire was here 1 year ago? Absolutely not. Mother Nature knows how to take care of herself. We just need to get out of her way. I think we're going to get out of the way of the ants here that are crawling around and starting to wake up. But I want to thank you so much for joining us here once more along the Deschutes River, a year after the Substation Fire, to talk about the philosophy of wildfire, take in some of these still beautiful vistas, and hang out with, as always, ants.